give them. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not scared around here. You can't use that shit on me. Happy and free. Radical positivity. Say what you believe in. Try fighting uphill with me. Avoid the dangers of conformity. A lot of us with no action. Destroy this corporate thing. A lot of us with no action. Destroy this corporate thing. Brave your ancestors for the power you need. We're not gonna give them. I'm not wearing a mask. We're not scared around here. You can't use that on me. Happy and free. Powerful positivity. Say what you believe in. Try fighting uphill with me. Avoid the dangers of conformity. A lot of us with no action. Destroy this corporate thing. Pray your ancestors for the power you need. 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 Everyone to love like me.
How's it going?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome once again to Trad Queen Story Hour. Well, the day we've been dreading has finally come. Pride Month is upon us, but I do have some good news as we go into this month of weeping and gnashing of teeth for those of us on the right. We are finally fighting back, and it only took actual leftists actually threatening our actual children to get us to do it. I have to give credit where it's due. It just took us long enough. I feel like there was a faction of the right that was like, oh my gosh, this is getting crazy. You need to be aware of how it's going to end up. And then there was another faction of the right saying, let people do whatever they want, live and let live, love is love, whatever. They're not asking for that much. They just want to be able to do what they want in the privacy of their own homes. It doesn't even really affect us. So the libertarian right was 100% at war with the actual conservative right. And I feel like the conservative right just consistently proven right again and again and again in all the worst possible ways. I'm constantly saying it would be so nice to be right about something positive for a change. Hopefully this month is the opportunity to prove to ourselves that we do have what it takes to show these companies what's what. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I do want to show you this though. Let me see if I can click the right button. I moved everything around so I could see everything better. And I said, it is long past time to turn Pride Month into Accountability Month. We should never have let it get this far. And I shared a screenshot of an article from TipRanks. Who knows what that's about? It's some finance site. I have no idea what they do. Pointing out that Kohl's stock is falling in pride uproar like Bud and Target. So all three of these companies are suffering from similar effects of wokeness. So finally, for once in my life, we're actually seeing the reality of get woke, go broke. And this used to be something we talked about a lot on IRL, but the more I thought about it, the more I was like, actually, these companies are getting woke and they're not going broke. It's true that people don't really go to see these woke movies all that much, but for the most part, people really don't care. And we can tell that movie studios really don't care either because they keep trying to make the same super woke nonsense. But this, I don't think, is going to work for these companies. However, we do know that they are bankrolled by companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, and the like, unfortunately. So what we really need to do here, since all of these companies are going woke just in time for Pride Month, I'm going to give a shout out now, especially to PublicSq. They are fantastic. PublicSq.com. They are where I go and where Andy goes to look for companies that don't hate us and to look for like local businesses. One of the things they're looking for when they list their values and they ask companies to agree to them, they say, we care about America. America's a net good in the world. We respect the right to life. We respect medical freedom and all this other stuff. And we're also going to focus on made in America goods. So first off, I love that. We were looking at Timcast for beanie manufacturers that were in the US and we were having a really hard time finding them. Especially in the wake of the pandemic, but it seems like we are actually finally starting to see the parallel economy get off the ground. And I know this because there was a short spell there in the middle of all the Target kerfuffle when PublicSq was just overwhelmed with people making new accounts because they were serious about finding alternative places to turn for all of this nonsense. Now, if we look here, we can see a question from a lady called Sue who says, my problem is where can I shop? I can't starve for a whole month. That's a very fair question. And I said, official PSQ at official PSQ to find local business, including restaurants that will never backstab you in your values. And then John shared this link. Use this to not starve during June, which is PublicSq.com. And she points out, I'll check it out, but the point is that except for a farmer's market and only some of those, there aren't any places I can go in the month of June where alternative flags aren't flown in my face as I enter. Literally, to me, that seems to indicate that she lives in a blue state, which does make this kind of stuff challenging. But at the end of the day, you can still really replace Amazon with PublicSq, which is so cool. They have really cool companies. I'm actually really looking forward to like buying baby clothes on there, and candles and all sorts of home goods, all the kinds of things that wives like to buy. All that stuff is going to be coming from PublicSq. Let's see what Andy has to say. Oh, what I have to say about myself. Trad Queen Story Hour is now streaming live on Rumble tonight. Rainbow flag, rainbow unicorn, Happy Pride Month, everyone. Thank you, dear. I appreciate that. Well, I can't really retweet myself, so you guys get out there and retweet this for me if you don't mind. I would love for this show to get a little more purchase. We have to convince Seamus from Freedom Tunes to come on this show. I've been after him for like a while now to come on and talk with me about all of this stuff, especially like in the wake of all this Dodgers stuff. I would love to discuss with him like the Archdiocese, all this other stuff. I don't agree with Catholics on everything. It's fine. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we agree on the big stuff, which is that Jesus is incredibly important and religion is also similarly crucial to making sure that society continues in a positive direction. So thank you, Andy, for tweeting that for us. Appreciate that. Oh, I forget where I was going with that one. All right, you know what? I'm going to shunt us right over here to this tweet from Libs of TikTok where she says, a J. Crew has gone woke. They are now selling Pride t-shirts with a Progress Pride flag and trans flag for toddlers. And it says, love is for everybody. And they have all the various flags. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but all of these different sexualities, sexual orientations have these really bright kind of fun colorations and these really interesting patterns. If you've ever seen, we're going to pull this up right now because I actually think this is super interesting. We're going to pull up the straight pride flag because there is one. I don't know if you knew this. I don't know if we actually have the official one, but yep, it's black and white and or gray. It looks like this is the actual one that they're trying to push, the heterosexual pride flag, just black and white. Boring. What kid in their right mind is going to look at a black and white flag and be like, that's what I want to be? Or are they going to look at all these other flags and be like, hey, you know what? I like bright colors. I like pink and yellow and blue and all these other things. I like the stripes. I like all of the different orientations. That's awesome. I'm going to pick this color, the yellow and white and purple and black flag. I think that's like the bi flag or ASA. I don't know. Who cares? Honestly, who cares? Be proud all you want. We know it's just a cover for shame. You cannot force us to care about this stuff, period. So I'm banging on the table. I hope I'm not interfering with my microphone. You can't force us to care about it. And I tweeted this the other day too. I said a man can choose to identify as a woman and that's fine if that's what he wants to do. But if he wants us to recognize him as a woman, that is up to us. And we will determine whether that's the right thing to do. Now, under this J. Crew tweet, I have to admit I did spam a little bit. I said at this point, it's simpler to exclusively use PublicSq.com, PublicSq.com for everything. Saves a lot of guesswork. I think it's true. This guy comments, so the only thing left to buy is Louis Vuitton. I'm broke. I said, no, use PublicSq.com, PublicSq.com. And then someone else asked, who's left selling decent stuff that's not woke? Of course, I gave him a link. Send the mom and pop shop straight to the top. Yeah, 100%. That's the other thing about Public Square is that they also focus on the small businesses, on the made in America. Patty asks the very real questions. It's every clothes store. Are you ready to boycott Amazon? Shrug. It's too big an ask. We'll never win. I said, yes, you can use official Public Square, official PSQ, that's their @ on Twitter, and then PublicSq.com to undercut your Amazon addiction. And I'm serious about that. They sell great clothes. They have cool candles. They have camping gear. You can replace North Face. All of these companies that recently have gone insanely woke need to go insanely broke. And we do this by creating the parallel economy. And Dan Bongino has a payment processing system called Parallel Economy. We have Public Square. We have Red Balloon Work. Their handle is @Red Balloon Work. If you are looking for a company to hire you that does not hate your guts. And that's along the lines of Public Square. That's actually who Public Square works with to hire people to jobs who aren't going to require them to enroll in DEI courses, aren't going to force them to go through struggle sessions, aren't going to downrank them because they are, for example, white males or white in the first place or straight or whatever else other stuff. Unhaley Snipe says, rookies, Locals has the best chat when it's turned on. Cough, cough. Andy, will you please turn on chat in Locals? And I will pull that up and I will make sure I am watching that as well. I really wanted to highlight this because we've been talking so much about going woke and going broke because of what happened with Anheuser-Busch. and what's been happening with Target, and now what I hope happens with Kohl's, and what I hope happens with J. Crew, and honestly Chick-fil-A as well, because as I recall, they did have some semi-woke moments. Find more interesting chicken or make your own chicken at home. Whenever it comes to boycotting like a restaurant, I always tell people, if you want to be healthy and lose weight, you need to make your own food at home, period. When I was working on losing weight, I always made my food at home. That made it possible for me to cook simply and to leave off stuff like seed oils and to make sure that none of that nonsense was in my food. Seasoned it exactly how I wanted, made exactly how much I wanted, and there was really no downside. You do save a lot of money there as well. Andy says you should probably disclose that your husband works there. We have a 3-letter agency watching. That's true as well. Part of the reason I love and care so much about PublicSq, just part of the reason, full disclosure on my end, I love PublicSq regardless of where my husband works. I think it's fantastic that we're building the parallel economy. It's so crucial. And I will just keep saying it forever because I think this is actually how we win the war. We can talk ideas and we can talk philosophy all we want, but if we don't actually put our money into action, like PublicSq is allowing people to do now, we're stuck, right? It's honestly a genius idea, and I really appreciate everything they're doing over there, especially everything my husband does because he's such a great provider for our family, and I'm so glad to have him over there for sure. All right, you guys, we are going to move on over. Let me see what you guys are thinking. Hey, Breeze in the chat. Wonderful. Good times. Looks like a tortilla flats, home of the Dodger Stadium. First they take the land and then they spit in your eye, in your eyes years later. Not sure what you're referring to. Why does the Rumble link say offline? I don't know. Rumble gives us a hard time sometimes. No big deal. Heck yes, get some freedom tones. I will try to post it in the comments whenever I can. And he is on Timcast. Good. I'm happy to hear he's back on Timcast. He's a lot of fun. Hey, Psycho Clown says just found my new chiropractor on PublicSq. First time I've really used it, but it worked out great. That's awesome. I'm very happy to hear that. We actually found a personal trainer here where we are that was on PublicSq. And we're like, that's awesome. But we were too busy to actually make anything work with that. So really looking forward to being down in Florida, looking forward to all of the different resources we will have there. There's a pregnancy center nearby that I really plan to volunteer at. I remember when I was younger, I used to volunteer with my mom at her crisis pregnancy center. She would go and talk to the girls. I would go and help my sisters sort out like the diapers and all the donations, the bottles and the clothing. They had a huge closet full of wonderful stuff. Crisis pregnancy centers, very important. C says, please hit the like button. Thank you. Yes, definitely do. If you like this video, let YouTube know, share it with your friends. And I do put up the podcast version after the show, so look for that. I put it up on Spotify. It goes up on Apple, and it goes up on Google. So it should be pretty much everywhere you listen to podcasts. Good stuff for sure. All right, you guys, we have the most interesting presidential announcement ever of all time. I know you guys have been looking forward to this announcement for so long. It's finally here just in time for Pride Month. Mike Pence is set to launch his presidential campaign next week. The former vice president will kick off his 2024 bid with a campaign video and speech in Des Moines, Iowa. Everybody's in Iowa right now. We were also going to talk about DeSantis being in Iowa and taking some finally sharply directed hits at Donald Trump as we move into the actual pre-election season. Very exciting stuff. Trump has been making some unbidden mistakes, which has been interesting to watch, if nothing else. Let's read what's happening with Mike Pence. Very interesting stuff. I will try to stay awake for the duration of the article. Mike Pence plans to enter the GOP presidential nomination fray June 7th with a campaign video and a kickoff speech in Des Moines, Iowa, according to a person familiar with his launch schedule. The former VP, a longtime advocate of the priorities of traditional conservatives on social and economic issues, will join the race at a time when his one-time boss, former President Donald Trump, claims a majority in the most national polls, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is a clear second. Redefining himself to Republican voters, most of whom know him primarily as Trump's vice president, will be a challenge. But the Indiana-bred Pence views his fellow Midwesterners in the Iowa GOP and their first-in-the-nation caucuses as a hospitable home for his brand of politics. Typically, the Iowa caucuses play a winnowing role in the nomination fights, providing rocket fuel to a handful of candidates while burying the hopes of the rest. We view this race as absolutely wide open, and Iowa is really going to solidify itself as a pivotal player, the person familiar with Pence's plan said. Sounds like one of his campaign players. It is a place that values Mike Pence's principles, traditional conservative principles, deep-rooted faith, and uncommon character. That's as may be, but I have to admit, I love Rand Paul. but I remember when he was running for president and I was looking at this man and I was like, he has the charisma of a teaspoon and I don't see he wins anyway. I don't see it. I don't see it happening. I remember thinking Rand Paul would be a fantastic vice president. He'd be a great, he would be a great press secretary. We are going to talk about press secretaries in just a minute. Don't you worry about that. Because Trump had some choice words for Kayleigh McEnany, whom I personally love dearly. So we will unpack that for sure. But I think that Rand Paul would be fantastic with the press. I've also always thought that Trey Gowdy would be fantastic. A similarly wire-haired gentleman like Rand Paul. Rand has fantastic policy positions. Kind of similar to Chip Roy, Thomas Massey, and Rand Paul. So I appreciate all of them very much. Wait, I think I just repeated Rand Paul. You guys know what I mean. Let's hop over to elsewhere in Iowa because DeSantis was also there. DeSantis' response to Trump attacks sparks laughs from Iowa crowd. Are you kidding me? Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis are both campaigning in Iowa this week. Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis drew laughs from an audience in Iowa after hitting back against criticism from former President Donald Trump on his record as Florida governor. He used to say how great Florida was, DeSantis told a reporter following a speech Tuesday night on the campaign trail in Iowa. Hell, his whole family moved to Florida under my governorship. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I mean, that's fair. The Florida Republican's comment drew a loud laugh from the crowd. Look, I'm going to respond to the attacks, DeSantis added, because I think people have been concerned that he was never going to actually weigh in on some of the barbs being flung from Trump. Thankfully, he is keeping it focused on policy and away from personal, which is how I always want to do this stuff. People are like, why don't you hit back to the same degree that somebody hit you? And I'm like, that's not what you want to do. You want to be professional. I don't know. To be fair, I'm also not a politician. Maybe the personal is better. It depends what people are looking for. I think that people are tired of constant personal attacks. Call me crazy. We'll see what happens. I mean, if you say Cuomo did a better job with COVID than Florida did, first of all, that's not what he used to say. 6 months ago, he would have never said that, right? In reference to Trump, 100%. The Trump campaign did not immediately respond to a request for comment from Fox News Digital. Trump, whose recent Fox News polling shows holds a substantial lead on DeSantis among GOP primary voters, has criticized DeSantis for weeks over his record in Florida, including attacks that DeSantis says are delusional. He's been attacking me by moving left, DeSantis said last week. I don't think that anyone in good faith can argue that this is not the case, because Trump has argued on behalf of Disney and then he has argued against Disney. And he has said things like a 6-week abortion ban is too extreme. He said things like Florida has not handled COVID well. He said that Andrew Cuomo handled it better. He's moving to the left and fast, and it's too much for me. Remember, I left that decision open to the governor, said Trump, who moved his primary residence to Florida in 2019 after living there part-time for decades, posted on Truth Social. For COVID death rates per state, Ron, as governor of Florida, did worse than New York. So he does remember Ron's name. That's nice. Glad to hear he doesn't actually have dementia. In education, Florida ranks among the worst in the country, and on crime statistics, Florida ranked third worst in murder, third worst in rape, and third worst in aggravated assault, Trump said. For 2022, Jacksonville was ranked as one of the top 25 major crime cities in the country, with Tampa and Orlando not doing much better. DeSantis returned to Iowa for the first time as a declared presidential candidate this week for 2 days of campaigning, while Trump also headed to the state on Wednesday to campaign at various events, including a sit-down with Fox News' Sean Hannity for a town hall in Clive, Iowa. Great stuff. Really looking forward to this heating up. Looking forward to hearing their different points of view. I do think that there's a case to be made against Trump at this point because he did voluntarily move down to Florida, and now he's like, this is a horrible state. I hate it so much. And it's like, why did you move there? What was the thinking behind moving down there if you really think this is an awful state? Either that or something has wildly shifted and you're just playing politics and you're not being honest. I sense that there's a lack of honesty among the Trump polls on Twitter, but that's only because 2 of them got fact-checked within the space of a couple hours this morning. Let's move on to Texas GOP Chip Roy, who is trolling Trump for Kayleigh McEnany posts. This is from the Daily Beast. The left loves this infighting on the right, and I can't say I blame them. It is very amusing. Representative Chip Roy, who endorsed Ron DeSantis over Trump, subtly mocked the former president's misspelled dig at his one-time White House press secretary. Speaking of poor education rates in Florida, we are now misspelling milk toast. I'm sure you guys all know how to spell milk toast. It's not like milk Toast. It's Milqueue. For some reason, I think it's based on a story. I think it came from some character who was named Milk Toast based on the actual food. The tentative deal raising the debt ceiling that President Joe Biden and House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy agreed to over the weekend hasn't won over far right. He's actually just like a populist, but the Daily Beast can't parse that. They have no other words. Who complained Tuesday that it's milk toast, an apparent nod to former President Donald Trump's criticism earlier that night of Fox News guest host Kayleigh McEnany. McEnany, filling in on the Ingram angle, asked Roy what he considers a realistic alternative to the deal, which would raise the current $31.4 trillion debt ceiling until January 2025. It would also, among other things, cut about $20 billion in IRS funding, good, and put in place new work requirements for some individuals on food stamps and those in the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program. Everything we're seeing out of this deal hatched this weekend is pretty milquetoast, if that word might mean something to you, Roy said just a few hours after Trump wrote a misspelled Truth Social post directed at McEnany, whom he called milk toast. And the correct abbreviation for that in printing is SIC, in parentheses. The spelling error is the fault of the original poster, not the fault of the reposter. In the post, Trump accused his former White House press secretary of giving out the wrong poll numbers on Jesse Watters' primetime while discussing his lead in Iowa over Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. I am 34 points up on DeSantis, sanctimonious, not 25 up, Trump claimed. She knew the number was corrected upwards by the group that did the poll. The rhinos and globalists can have her. Fox News should only use real stars, all caps 3 exclamation points. It's unclear which poll McEnany and Trump are referring to, although an Emerson College poll from last Thursday before DeSantis announced his candidacy found Trump leading by 42 points. Interestingly, Roy endorsed DeSantis over Trump back in March. As to the contents of the tentative deal, Roy explained that the real problem we face is the $4 trillion in debt, and they pushed this thing up to January 1st, 2025 with an uncapped amount, which we think will be about $4 trillion, and we did not sign up to basically free spending for $4 trillion in debt. The alternative is pretty simple. You have a 28 or $29 billion in COVID funds. You have $80 billion in IRS money. All of us agreed it should go away. He continued, the number one thing we campaigned on was getting rid of that IRS money. For the best, for sure. On that bright note, DeSantis has said he wants to get rid of the IRS altogether, which I think is freaking fantastic. Let's go. Earlier Tuesday, the debt ceiling deal passed the House Rules Committee, where Roy is a member, and now headed back to the full House. Full House. The deal must also pass the Senate and be signed into law before the Monday default deadline. We'll see what happens. This is not the top of my issues priorities list because I'm pretty sure that the Republicans are just Democrats driving the speed limit at this point. At least we have people like Chip Roy who are bringing attention to this and raising issues. I know the Daily Beast is wanting to point out that he's trolling Trump or whatever, but he's actually one of our last actual populists. Like I said earlier, he is on the same wavelength as Rand Paul and Thomas Massie and Troy Nell's similar one as well. But we'll see what happens there. I'm not confident. I'm really not holding my breath. We'll see what happens. All right. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is throwing a, quote, hissy fit over a Twitter parody account because they were making fun of her. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez press release parody. It says parody, I believe, right in the handle or in the descriptor. Yeah, nope. Right in the handle. Parody. AOC press. Yep. I can't believe people would think these parody tweets are from our office when they are clearly fake. Come on, y'all. You know I would never say something as stupid as that. Indeed. They're really poking fun at her for kind of being dense, and I really can't say I blame them. This is a tweet from AOC Press. FYI, I have no problem with parody accounts, just the ones that make fun of me. Ooh, this hits close to home. No wonder AOC is upset. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez finds herself in a fight with herself. Well, a parody account that seems to be a little too good at its job. AOC recently took to Twitter to express her concern about a parody account you should follow if you're not already, that was impersonating her. FYI, there's a fake account on here impersonating me and going viral. The Twitter CEO has engaged it, boosting visibility. My gosh, let me clutch my pearls for you, AOC. I am sorry. It is releasing false policy statements and gaining spread. She tweeted, the Congresswoman is currently assessing with her team how to move forward. Oh my gosh, someone is making fun of me. We need to take steps and make sure that this can never happen again. This woman wants your free speech at the end of the day. I just have no patience for her. She actually got yelled at by her own constituents in New York when she did a town hall the other day, which I loved. Really happy to hear. So people are kind of losing it in New York, and they're also losing it in California, I believe, in around Berkeley, with a very, very high crime rates. Anyway, I digress. The parody account is having a field day with a bio that reads, saying the quiet part out loud, parody, the account isn't trying to hide its intentions. The tweets range from the absurd, such as every time my boyfriend farts, I make him plant a tree to offset his carbon emissions, to the hilarious, if the government can print money, citizens should be allowed to. I mean, if we had money printers in each household, everyone would be rich and the economy would be booming. This actually sounds like something she would say, okay? I completely understand why she's upset about this, because it actually sounds like policy positions that she would actually say. I really came away feeling like the Green New Deal was actually written in crayon. But the parody account also seems to be well aware of real AOC's concerns and is still joking. This is where they go on to say, I can't believe people would think these parody tweets are from our office when they are clearly fake. Come on, y'all. You know I would never say something as stupid as that. While AOC is understandably upset about the potential for misinformation, the parody account is just that, a parody. It's a classic case of satire meets social media, and the results are comedic goldmine. Twitter is never short of entertainment. That is true. A lot of times people will just say, this site is free. Technically correct. It is for whoever wants it to be. In the meantime, we wait with bated breath for AOC's next move. Will she manage to get the parody account taken down, or will the account continue to churn out its comedic content? Here we are saying, today feels like January 6th all over again. From my Southern Border photo shoot earlier today, she's sobbing over the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez press release parody. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's amazing. They deserve to go viral. They're doing great things. And then they go on to say, I still won't date you, AOC. Here she is looking angry. Here she is laughing. Oh my gosh. These are fantastic memes. I'm so proud of this person, whoever they are. And I feel like all of our leaders should be up for mocking just like this. I mean, all of them, every single one of them. And how they respond to it would be the sign of whether they should be kept in office. I'm convinced. I think that this should be the test. This should actually be the test of whether you should be in a position of influence in this country, is whether you can laugh at people who are making fun of you. Because anyone who has sufficiently come to terms with themselves and is sufficiently on proper terms with their own mindset is going to be able to look at barbs thrown at them and be like, that's funny, or that's not true, or that's a little bit of both. It's a little bit untrue, but it's also very funny, so I'll allow it, whatever. In any case, we should never be in a position where a leader is saying things like, oh, we are assessing our options. You're talking about someone's free speech, and that does include the ability to parody and the ability to satirize current events. I'm sorry, you are part of current events. You chose to be famous. You chose to put yourself on this pedestal. And now here you are and you don't like it. And my goodness, I'm just so sorry for you. Soul crushing, soul crushing. All of my sympathy, world's smallest violin, etc. And finally, they say, if we tax citizens at a rate of 80%, we'd easily be able to pay $3 trillion in reparations to transgenders. Oh my gosh, please don't give them ideas. They don't need any more ideas. I really just wanted to touch on that. And I was like, what can I even say about this? But then I was like, no, this means something serious, because she's trying to target directly an individual's right to free speech. She doesn't even know who they are. She doesn't care. They probably work at a loading dock or something. I don't know if you guys remember, but CNN went after a meme maker who made a meme about Donald Trump body slamming CNN in a cage fight or something. And they said, this guy has promised to never repeat this error again, with the understanding that if he does, we will destroy his life or something. And I was just like, this is unbelievable. But even that was a little bit different, because it was an actual journalistic enterprise saying this to a free citizen. And I was just like, do they not hear themselves? Do they not see themselves? Their actual arms of what feels like a single party state? Crazy to me. But they never got it through their heads. It never made a difference to them. And they just carried on as usual. No one ever held them accountable. But I remember. So hopefully AOC is not quite as bad as CNN. I guess we could put them in the same group, though, because they are trying to do the same things. All right, you guys, I thought this was super interesting. I haven't read into this fully, so we are going to cover it together with the help of the Washington Free Beacon, whom we love, covering the enemies of freedom the way the mainstream media won't. I do appreciate their byline. Ringleaders of Atlanta bail fund booked on money laundering charges. I don't know if you guys remember the protests in Atlanta. So much has gone on between 2010 and now. There were some serious violent riots in Atlanta over this proposed training facility, I think outside of some kind of nature preserve or something. We'll get the details, I'm sure, from this article because they do write really well. Let's read more about it. But here is a police car aflame in Atlanta on January 21st of this year. The ringleaders of a nonprofit bail fund allegedly involved in a domestic terrorist attack against an Atlanta police training center was arrested Wednesday on charges of money laundering and charity fraud. Anyone surprised? Anyone? No, not me either. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation announced Wednesday it had found evidence linking the 3 directors of the Network for Strong Communities, every time with the ridiculous pseudonyms for these people, to the alleged financial crimes. The charity received a $3.6 million windfall during the George Floyd riots of 2020 and operates the Atlanta Solidarity Fund, the largest bail fund in the Atlanta metropolitan area. The charges stemmed from an ongoing investigation into an attack by masked assailants in January against the future site of the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center, a police academy scheduled to open late 2023. The charges come as other prominent social justice groups that rose to prominence during the nationwide. I tried to combine them and it came out nationwide unrest during the summer of 2020 unravel amid allegations of financial malfeasance. Black Lives Matter, which raised $90 million following Floyd's death, reported last week that its revenues plummeted by 88% in its 2022 fiscal year as it doled out lucrative contracts to the friends and family of its co-founder, Police Glores. And the Minnesota Freedom Fund, a bail fund championed by Vice President Kamala Harris that used its $41.7 million landfall to bail a host of violent offenders out of jail, suffered a 98% drop in contributions in 2021. And I have to be honest, these companies are designed to fail. They're designed to fail like this. They're designed for their donations to drop off like this so they can just close up shop, close the books, most importantly, and then just step out of the limelight and disappear. They come in, they grift, they take money from foolish people, and then they just disappear off into the wind. It's magical. So I'm really interested as to whether these charges for these ringleaders stick. We'll see what happens going forward, and I would really like to see similar investigations into Black Lives Matter too, for sure, as well as the Minnesota Freedom Fund. The Atlanta Solidarity Fund is part of a coalition of groups resisting the planned police training center, which is also known as Cop City. The fund rushed in March to help release 23 suspects from jail that were charged with domestic terror for their alleged involvement in a coordinated attack against the site of Cop City that left one assailant dead. I'm glad it was an assailant and not a defender. Today's arrests are about the violence that occurred at the site of the future Atlanta Public Safety Training Center and elsewhere, Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr said in a statement, "As we have said before, we will not rest until we have held accountable every person who has funded, organized, or participated in this violence and intimidation." The Atlanta Solidarity Fund's 3 directors, Marlon Kautz, Savannah Patterson, and Adele McLean, will be booked into a local jail and have a bond hearing scheduled soon. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation said Wednesday further details on the financial allegations are unknown at this time. The Network for Strong Communities did not return a request for comment. I wonder why not. The Stop Cop City movement said it will hold a protest outside the DeKalb County Jail Wednesday evening to demand the release of Kautz, Patterson, and McLean. They're not going to get anywhere with that, I don't think. I'm really kind of glad to see that they're kind of bringing in some kind of justice against these people, because I don't believe this kind of actual violent protest has a place in our civilized society. There are some people who will tell you that you should be able to make a Molotov cocktail and do with it as you see fit. That's obviously never been part of my worldview. I don't think that's the case at all. I think the Founding Fathers were very clear that we had the right to peacefully protest, and that right should never be taken away. Our right to associate, our right to speak, our right to think, and our right to access all of this information should be undebatable. But the right to violently protest is not espoused anywhere in our founding documents and has never been a part of precedented U.S. law. Andy is asking a lot of questions and angry stuff. I'm not sure what you are questioning there, dear, But take it away. Chat is going by. We're taking a trek to Florida very, very soon. Awesome. That will be a different kind of heat from Arizona. That will be fun for Whisper and Unhail. All right, you guys. This I thought was super awesome. I just saw it go by as I was pulling up whatever stories I have for this evening. Virginia eliminates degree requirements for most state jobs. State Secretary of Labor Brian Slater further in the same release indicated that the state was looking into heavily regulated private industries to streamline the professional certification processes. This is great news. This is great news, and I really hope that other states will follow suit. Let's read more before I get out over my skis. Virginia Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin on Tuesday announced a change in state hiring practices that would eliminate requirements or preferences that applicants for most state positions have a college degree. A press release from Youngkin indicated that the change will take effect July 1st and affect roughly 90% of state positions. The Old Dominion's myriad agencies post as many as 20,000 job listings per year. On day one, we went to work reimagining workforce solutions in government, and this key reform will expand opportunities for qualified applicants who are ready to serve Virginians, Youngkin said in a statement. This landmark change in hiring practices for our state workforce will improve hiring processes, expand possibilities and career paths for job seekers, and enhance our ability to deliver quality services, he continued. A lot of just political speak. Last month, Virginia achieved the highest labor force participation rate in nearly 10 years. That's fantastic. Demonstrating the Commonwealth's sustained workforce developments. One thing I learned from living up here in New England is that Commonwealth just means state. I don't know why they don't just call themselves a state. I think that they're holding on to this old, antiquated term because it makes them feel special because they're some of the oldest states in the country. State Secretary of Labor Brian Slater further in the same release indicated that the state was looking into heavily regulated private industries to streamline the professional certification processes. We are also working hard to examine regulated occupations and professions to find ways to simplify and speed up credentialing processes and universal licensing recognition for individuals who want to live and work in Virginia. The move comes as American high school graduates increasingly opt against pursuing college degrees due to affordability and return on investment concerns. Very, very wise. I'm so glad to see this younger generation start to wake up. And one of the things my mother-in-law actually mentioned to me earlier today was that younger people are starting to notice too that social media is really not good for them. And I honestly could not be happier. They may have the horrible hair. They may have the male perms poofed up on top, and they may say things like, I don't know, lit and fam or whatever it is they're talking about these days. But I think that if they're starting to get woke, as it were, to this stuff, I think they are going to be okay in the end. Hopefully they all figure it out 100% and decide to move away from higher education. Like we saw an example of that yesterday with the CUNY graduate who got up in front of her class and said that law is literally white supremacy and the whole point of going to college is to fight the oppression and fight the power and fight the man. Utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. It's exhausting. It makes you think that people are really, really wasting all this money. They're sinking tons of money into being told that if they're white, that they're the oppressors. If they're brown, that they are the victims. There is no positive spin. And it's so interesting. Ann and I were talking about this the other day, to ask them what a solution would look like, because they cannot tell you. There is no solution. That's the point. Yeah, I think we were listening to James Lindsay the other day, and we're like, yeah, they don't want a solution. And one of the things that James Lindsay was talking about in some of his new discourses conversations was that they will refer to historically marginalized people, and there is no changing that. You can't fix it. And I was also thinking about the crime of being white too, right? Because we're constantly talking about how wokeness is religion, whatever. So the question then is, what would original sin look like for this new religion? Well, the original sin in this religion is the sin of being white. No, you don't have control over it. No, it doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter that the people who are marginalized historically were not marginalized by you specifically. They don't care about the individual. They care about the collective, and they will exact their revenge on you because this is part of their reform, part of their attempt to gain utopia. But I digress. Let's continue with this article. President Joe Biden has moved to lessen the financial burden of increasing debt to pay for college by offering up to $10,000 in repayment relief for most loan recipients and up to $20,000 for those who received a Pell Grant, though that plan has faced less scrutiny, legal scrutiny, and may end up permanently blocked by the judiciary. Good. When you tell the colleges that you're going to cover more of student loan debt, guess what they're going to do? They're going to jack up the prices. to match it perfectly, and no one comes out ahead, certainly not the students, but the colleges do. This is why Will Chamberlain is always banging on and on and on, and rightly so, about seizing the endowments for these colleges. These colleges get billions and billions and billions of dollars in endowments, and they use them for what? Do they really make the world a better place? They're not exactly a charitable institution. No one is getting an education for free. Not that I would even want the kind of education that they're giving from now for free. But the proposal deal to raise the debt limit facing Congress includes a measure to end a temporary freeze on student loan repayments. That's right. Ben Whedon is an editor and reporter for Just the News. Follow him on Twitter. Awesome. Thank you, Ben. That's a great article. That was super exciting to me. And I was reading that and I was like, well, it kind of looks to me like Youngkin is trying to take a page out of DeSantis' book, because this is not something that I think that people would ordinarily think of when they think about Republican issues, but I cannot think of a topic or a policy that affects blue-collar workers more than that. Can you? Like, that's a seriously positive thing, and I would love to see more states taking steps in this direction as well, for sure. And I truly appreciate what Youngkin is doing here. All right, guys, let's see what we're going to talk about next here. So if we have anything here. President who can't find his pants. What on earth? Oh, this really came up from Ilhan Omar across my Twitter timeline, and it was something about the president not being able to find his pants, and I was like, well, yeah, obviously we know that he can't find his pants. Oh, you know what? I wanted to talk to you guys about this school board president, Utah. There was a really interesting case out of Utah. There was a school board leader who chose to send people to a private citizen's lawn, to hammer in a bunch of pride flags because she knew that this mother had actually withdrawn her son from the school district because they were being so woke and so pride focused. And I really wish I could pull it up right now. Pride flags. Let me see if I can find it easily. If I can't find it easily, we won't talk about it for sure. A couple weeks ago. No, this is really recent. Come on, man. Let's change our tools. We will sort by past 24 hours. Yes. Okay. So we're going to read this one. Utah school PTA. Okay. So PTA president, not the school board president, whatever. Utah school PTA president allegedly orders LGBT flags to be staked in the yard of mom who opposed gender ideology. Really interesting. This mom had also run for the school board and lost. Definitely not a friend of the school board. So here we see a woman holding a bunch of pride flags standing in somebody's yard. Let's read the details. The president of a Utah school's parent-teacher association allegedly ordered LGBT flags to be placed on a family's property without their permission. So, how entitled can one person possibly be? I don't think it gets much more entitled than that. In a video shared on Twitter by Utah mother April Wild Despain, a woman is shown standing in the yard with a brace of pride flags and says in response to questions that Hillcrest Junior High PTA President Jennifer Awerda ordered them. PTA President in At Murray Schools, Utah, Jennifer Awerda, has relentlessly bullied me and my family just because we don't want gender/queer ideology in Murray School District, Utah, Despain wrote in the tweet containing the video. Today, she ordered 7 pride flags to be staked into our front yard without our permission. The flags included the rainbow colors as well as black and brown stripes, which represent LGBT people of color. So here we see the tweet from April. Interesting. Let's see if we can watch this video, hopefully without getting some kind of a copyright strike.
Wait, who did you say?
Jennifer, A-U-W-E-R-D. And then
Awerda? Yeah, we didn't order that.
Okay. But that is someone you know, though?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, she ordered you 7 flags.
7? All right.
Yeah.
Remind me of that. Can you say that again?
What?
Jennifer?
Who was it?
Jennifer.
Jennifer Awerda?
I'm not sure. It said A-U-W-E-R.
Yeah, Awerda.
Cuts
Cuts off.
And she did what?
She ordered
Project
7 for
Rainbow.
it.
They
Called
just
her-
ordered flags.
Oh, sorry.
So this lady didn't even do this herself. She didn't have the nerve to go to these people's house and put these flags on their lawn herself. It looks like she ordered some kind of an agency, like maybe Postmates or something, to go and perform this service for her. So you really can't even yell at the lady holding the flags, right? She is doing what she was instructed to do, but she is willing to give the name of the person who instructed her to do it. And this is a person with whom April has a history. April is now homeschooling her children because she argued with the school board about all of this stuff. I guess her son was in 3rd grade and his teacher came out and was trying to read them a queer story or something. Listen to how this woman responded. This woman, Jennifer Awerda, who ordered these flags put into these people's lawns without their permission. Happy Pride to our favorite Murray citizen, April Wild Despain. Awerda replied to the video on Facebook according to a screenshot shared by parental rights activist Nicole Solis. As a mother of 6 children in Murray City School District, our family's life was turned upside down when my son's 3rd grade teacher read his class a book about transgenderism and then repeatedly lied to me about it, Despain told the Daily Caller. I tried working with Murray City School District to resolve my concerns, but instead of working with me, they orchestrated a charade to cover up their teachers' and administrators' lies and doubled down on their push for equity. Despain said that she now homeschools her children, but that she wants to continue fighting for the children who still attend the local public schools. I've continued working to publicly expose the educators in MCSD who promote gender and queer theory. As a result of my work, Murray School District PTA President Jennifer Sewell Awerda came onto my social media attempting to bully and shame me and my family into silence. And that is exactly what it looks like she's trying to do, given that she responded, Happy Pride to our favorite Murray citizen, and then named her by name. That's very, very intentional. That's very clearly bullying. Holy cow. Despain told the caller that she urged Awerda to stop, but that the PTA president refused. It finally culminated in her sending 7 LGBTQ pride flags, which she knows are contrary to our religious and personal beliefs, to be staked into my front yard without my permission, she continued. And this is interesting to me, Despain ran unsuccessfully for Murray City School Board in 2022, according to Utah election results that you can pull up and look at. She lost by something like 12 or 13 percentage points. Really, really interesting. So somebody on Twitter, I think, mentioned this, and PsychoClown is saying this in the chat as well, that she should have burned the flags. And they were like, the person who appointed this goal of planting these flags probably has absolutely no issue with burning American flags. So I'm sure they'd feel the exact same way about the pride flag, right? No, absolutely not. And they don't feel the same. And that's how you know that this has taken the place of patriotism and national pride. And that's how you know that this is a form of a religion. Because this is the flag that we put in front of our embassies. This is the flag that now shows that an American was here. And that's incredibly disturbing to me. And I think it should be disturbing to everyone. And I include even people who are progressive in this, because this is not something that we should be doing. This is not something we can push. Uganda recently passed a law. Their own country passed their own law about aggravated homosexuality that included some of the most heinous crimes you can possibly imagine. Even Ted Cruz was duped into speaking against it. He was like, no, we should respect gay people, whatever. I was like, Ted, do you know what aggravated homosexuality actually is? Because there's a lot in that law, and you really need to unpack it before you just take whatever the New York Times or the Washington Post headline and run with it. Nonsense. Andy says, is burning a pride flag anti-Trump propaganda now too? I'm not sure, but we do know now. Oh, you know what? Let me show you guys this as well, because I don't think I showed you guys this. Furry conference, DeSantis. I saw a tweet about this. It was super interesting. Furry fury as convention goes 18 plus in reaction to DeSantis law. Quote, heartbreaking. Florida law prohibits knowingly exposing children to, quote, adult live entertainment. If you guys are familiar with furries. An upcoming furry convention in Florida will restrict its attendees to adults over 18. Stop. Are you effing kidding me? If you know anything about furries, you know that this is not kid-friendly stuff. It is brightly colored, and it is very kid-oriented, and it seems a little bit along the vein of like My Little Ponies, Bronies, and stuff like that. Weird, deviant stuff, perverted stuff, gross stuff. Kids should be nowhere near this kind of stuff. I digress. Apparently kids were allowed in these conventions, and now in response to a horrifying new law from Ron DeSantis, who just takes the fun and the joy out of everything. They're not allowed to bring kids in anymore, which they just must be crushed by. In response to Republican Governor Ron DeSantis' law prohibiting children from attending adult live entertainment, Megaplex, an Orlando-based convention dedicated to, quote, people who enjoy dressing up or making art of anthropomorphized creatures, originally released a statement regarding their decision on Wednesday. Many have raised concerns about recent changes in Florida legislation after following Florida Senate Bill 1438. It has been decided that for legal reasons and protecting our attendees, our venue, and overall convention, Megaplex 2023 attendees must be 18 years of age at the time of registration pickup. The statement read, holy cow, they literally weren't requiring this before. I am just verklempt. I have no words. The Protection of Children Act, Senate Bill 1438, specifically prohibits a person from knowingly admitting a child to an adult live performance. Really, really effing simple. An adult live performance is defined as any show, exhibition, or other presentation in front of a live audience which, in whole or in part, depicts or simulates nudity, sexual conduct, sexual excitement, or specific sexual activities. Really gross, basic stuff that we should never have to say. The Rolling Stone blasted the news. This headline was amazing. The Rolling Stone blasted the news from Megaplex, attacking DeSantis for sucking the pleasure out of joys like the furry convention. Just let that sink in. Florida Governor and GOP presidential nominee Ron DeSantis have successfully sucked the pleasure out of many of life's little joys, from drag brunches to Disney adult TikTok. I have so many questions, and we're only like 8 words into the sentence. And thanks to the passage of Senate Bill 1438, or the Protection of Children Act, DeSantis may now be bringing the axe down on furries. Senior writer E.J. Dixon wrote, though the furry organization judged their own convention to be potentially violating a law meant to prevent the sexualization of children, Dixon dismissed the connection as part of a pervasive misconception that furries are inherently sexual. The convention themselves said, no, we probably shouldn't do this, we're going to get in trouble. That's all I need. I don't give a flying rat's patootie what the Rolling Stone has to say about, well, literally anything after that scandal that they covered up, Mattress Girl. He continued, while it's true that there is a segment of furrydom that does treat it as a kink, it is not a representation of the wider community, and many furries do not view their interest in anthropomorphized creatures as sexual at all. Though many conventions do cater to the NSFW aspects of the furry fandom, this grosses me out so bad. You guys, I'm just impressed I'm still able to read this. They typically save such programming for late at night to ensure the rest of the con is family friendly, or cordon off adult vendors so they are not in full view of other attendees. Good for you. You're literally defending people who like to draw and to use anthropomorphized animals to make sexual content. What a world we live in. The Rolling Stone then quoted a transgender furry and owner of furry adult toy company Lycantasty, who agreed with Megaplex's response to the law but will not go out to this year's convention because, quote, I don't want to end up in a confrontation or worse, jailed or dead for just going to the bathroom in Florida. Oh my gosh. Okay, fine. Stay away. Dixon continued, what are we going to do, guys? I'm so upset about this. Here we are getting ready to move to Florida, and there are trans furries who aren't even sure if they're going to be able to go to the bathroom in Florida. And for that reason, they're choosing to stay away from the state. I don't know if Andy and I are going to be able to continue, and if we're going to be able to raise our family successfully in that state. It just sounds so restrictive. My heart goes out to this person. They should absolutely be able to go to Florida and go to whatever convention they want and invite whatever ages of people they want to their convention. And Ron DeSantis is sucking the joy out of all life's little pleasures. Just disgusting. Oh my gosh, I can't. Many furries are marginalized in some way. In addition to many identifying as LGBTQ, a sizable percentage of furries are also neurodivergent. I didn't believe it could, but this article actually got worse. As a result, they tend to view the community as a safe haven of sorts. Over the past few years, children have increasingly been gravitating toward the fandom for this reason, as Rolling Stone has previously reported. Good Lord. Dixon continued, the rise of furry influencers on platforms like TikTok has led to the fandom becoming increasingly popular among young people, with a Pittsburgh-based conference, Anthrocon, reporting that 16% of its attendees in 2019 were under the age of 19. Oh my gosh. Okay, we can do it, guys. We can do it. Just a few more lines. Dixon interviewed the founders of Moms of Furries. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I have the strength. One of whom said it was, quote, heartbreaking to think of young furries not having a space to connect due to the convention's new age restriction. My heart is bleeding. I have in my hand the world's smallest violin. Despite this year's age policy, Megaplex remained optimistic that circumstances could change in 2024. It is our hope that this change is temporary and that we can welcome members of all ages back next year, their statement read. This decision has been a difficult one, but Megaplex has not forgotten about or abandoned our younger fandom members and is looking into options for events and activities to include all age ranges and their families. According to the 2022 Megaplex schedule online, many events marked for those 18 and older took place at night. Others marked for adults or as general audience held during the afternoons included How to Be Queer, Baby Fur / Kid Fur Meetup, and Transgender Furs Meet and Greet. I think I just took a few years off my life, but we're almost done. This is the last sentence, I promise. The convention is expected to be held September 15th to 17th at Hyatt Regency in Orlando. Megaplex did not respond to a request for comment from Fox News Digital. Oh my gosh, guys, we made it through the article. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. And I couldn't help thinking, as I was reading from Andrew Cuomo last night about how great it is that Trump finally agrees with him and sees the truth about New York versus Florida, that Trump has also got to feel so great that he's cornered, first of all, the Andrew Cuomo vote, I'm sure, moving forward, people who really like Andrew Cuomo, and also the furry vote, because these people definitely don't like Ron DeSantis now, and I'm sure, given Trump's propensity to align himself with people who just disparage DeSantis relentlessly in any case, I would not be surprised if he made some Truth Social post about furries. I'm literally holding my breath. I'm so excited. I hope that this comes up in the news again, just so that Trump is tempted. I hope that DeSantis addresses this and he's like, ew, gross. I'm really glad that this isn't happening. I'm so glad they decided to ban kids from their adult conference full of people who are queer animal dressing weirdos. I hope that Trump can't help but respond to this. And then I hope that we have this new news cycle of furries embracing Trump and Trump reaching out to the furry community. I want to live in that world so much. I'm sorry. I just want it to happen. And Scott Adams is always saying that whatever the most entertaining thing that might happen will be what happens. Please, whatever powers that may be, please let this happen. I will love this so much. I think this is a great note to end on. It's now 7:57 here on the East Coast, and we have dinner with the in-laws at 8, so I'm going to go in just a minute. Stevie J says, Trump removed vital wetland ecosystems and so many ducks went extinct forever. I'm very sorry to hear that. That stinks. I do know that DeSantis was really good with protecting Florida wetlands. Andy says, I love the vaccine and masks. He also says he loves Trump, so he must be trolling. In one gulp, he drained the entire thing, right? Trump did drain the swamp for sure. He did do that. There is no more swamp. There's not even an IRS. There's no FBI. Christopher Wray has been out of commission for a really long time. Yeah, that operation, says Fear Me and Spree, Warp Speed really brought my respect for the guy down a ton of notches. Yes, it did that to a lot of people. Yep, and he still is embracing Fauci. Really looking forward to Trump Fauci 2024. I'm sorry, the reasons to not vote for Trump are so many. I wish they weren't. I wish he were a stronger, more conservative candidate, but he's not. And I am, when it comes down to it, truly a single issue voter. I care about pro-life stuff, and that's never going to change. And I don't think that 6 weeks is extreme. I think that outright bans are not even extreme. I think that a country that entertains abortion like we have to the tune of 66 million human lives over the last 50 years needs desperately to review what it thinks about human life. And I realize this is a sharp departure from what we were just talking about. That was hilarious and amazing. But if you guys aren't following me on Twitter, go over. You don't even have to follow me. Go over there and look at my pinned tweet because I listed my reasons for objecting to what Trump's doing right now. This is my biggest concern with Trump. And I quoted someone named I will not name him because you guys will take issue with my source, but he summarized my thoughts really well. The Republican primary will be about Trump and he will probably win. And then the general election will be about Donald Trump and he will probably lose. Pretty much a repeat of 2020. Trump is a turnout machine, both for and against him. That's basically it in a nutshell. If you guys liked 2020, hope you're ready for 2020 version 2.0. All right, you guys, I'm going to let you go. I will see you all tomorrow night, same time, same place. It will be Friday evening. We're going to take it easy. Hopefully we have more hilarious furry news to cover. Just kidding. I couldn't read it. I actually needed some alcohol to get through that. I'm so impressed with myself for actually powering through. I deserve a high five and a pat on the back. I will go get that from Andy. Now, you guys have a great night. I will see you all tomorrow. Until then, stay safe, stay well, stay out of Target. Bye, guys. How's it going?